will notice that we've had our scribblers, our harvesters of digital cartoons going throughout the event, and they've been recording things in a way that is quite unique to this event. I'm inviting now onto the stage illustrator Nick Payne, whose team have been capturing the key moments in cartoons to talk us through some of the highlights. So please give a round of applause to Nick. Thank you, Nick. Nice to see you. Okay, so very quickly, I believe you've... well, first of all, why cartoons? What do you think it captures?
It's a different way of processing and thinking about the issues. It's also a way to internalise and remember important aspects that you might want to take away and act upon. So most of us are visual thinkers, and it's an effective way of...
Great. So some of the highlights then that Nick's picked out, and the whole cartoon is going to be available online on the European Commission website. What did you pick out as the important notes?
So, you would have seen some of us in our blue shirts going around. One of the key messages that we came up with, this is just a flavour, we had 6 workshops and 2 of us, is that the future is now. There's no going back. There is no alternative. The European Union needs to get into the driving seat. We all know this. Because it's slightly behind the curve at the moment. We've got to catch up a little bit. So, time is of the essence.
Okay, sorry, yes.
It's okay, it will change.
Carry on.
I'm trying to time with it, but you know. If we are to reach the giddy heights of, for instance, level 4 automation in cars, things are going to change. In fact, everything's going to change, even the seats in the cars. Because if you're going to fall asleep in an automated car, they need to know your heartbeat. There's got to be sensors, so there's got to be research projects, so there's got to be aligned funding, so EU commissioners have got to work together. Things are going to have to change a little. With mobile devices, and almost everybody online shopping, businesses can be relevant from day one of their operation. We're going to link consumers with manufacturers in a way that's never happened before. But if all that manufacturing is taking place in China and areas outside the EU, what can we do about that? The only way is through well-done regulations that we can start that process of global competitiveness. Those rather disturbing shears are just heading up there. Here we go. So, businesses can be relevant from day one, but can they grow from day one? Well, innovation hubs are one of the key mechanisms that the Commission have put in place to support businesses with an ecosystem of partnership to enable them to grow during those startups during those early years. So skills investors, universities, companies, trainers, competence. These are regional hubs, and they're there to remove those barriers to growth into digital technology and help to make things work for the visionary and passionate people who are driving this process as business people in the new digital markets. An example of this could be regulation, and we'll touch on regulation a great deal as we go through this. It was one of the themes that came up most. One option is not less regulation, but maybe loosening regulation territorially, for instance, intellectual property rights and geo-blocking, so that broadcasters can work more easily across territories and reach new markets. But there are many approaches, and we'll come to that shortly. A key thing is not just what's driving that supply side across the top. There was a lot of talk about how this process has to be human-centered. Well, there's a lot of consumers and citizens who are very nervous about the Internet of Things and what it's going to mean. So they need to be empowered and educated. And their data, this is a key concern of theirs, has to be protected so that they know it's going to be used for their benefit in areas such as healthcare, predictive modelling, and not to their disadvantage, to their abuse in areas, for instance, of depriving them of insurance. So There are a lot of passionate business people who want to invest, take risks, experiment, innovate, and are prepared to crash and burn to learn from that. But there are a lot of citizens and consumers who are fearful of this, who want to shelter and hide from it. Standards, minimum standards, interoperability, these are a way to build trust and bridge that. And just as air travel in the last century took time to develop, and now Ryanair is driving freedom of movement for millions across the whole of the European Union. So, another way to build confidence and trust is through rules, but those rules need to be simple, consistent, and meaningful. And the right to e-privacy needs to be seen as a distinct right to the right to data protection and the right to privacy itself. In the e-privacy workshop, there was also some talk about different regulation for instance, social media and WhatsApp and messaging services. What can the Commission do? Well, the Commission can align its funding and policy mechanisms. Particularly DG Grow, DG Move, DG Connect. The member states need to align their policies and funding to that towards the strategic objectives, and maybe we can create a kind of digital Schengen zone for all of us to function within. Regulation is going to change. Regulators have been asked to think before regulating. Traditional regulatory frameworks have been in areas such as emissions, looking at the technology, but now it's going to be much more about coordinating in more blurred zones where energy, IT and telecoms are a single function. So think before regulating, but when you regulate, consciously regulate outside the lines. Tell a child, colour within the lines, and some of them will colour outside the lines just to find out what happens. That is paint, by the way, and not blood. And I think this is the last one. There's a lot of prediction going on, but it tends to be prediction about technology. When will we be fully automated? Will it be 2075? What's the impact going to be? But what we know for a fact is that there will be change. And just as the Jetsons, thought there were going to be flying cars, what we didn't predict were the unknown unknowns, the unknown societal changes that are going to come as a result of this. The role of women now is not the role of women in the Jetsons. And they did not see that coming. And we are not going to see the consequences of this until they come.
Nick, from Visuology, thank you so much. Brilliant, wonderful. Thank you.